This is CounselCast, part of the Legal Talk Network, and I'm your host, Karin Conroy. When you face a complex case outside your expertise, you bring in a co-counsel for next-level results. When you want to engage, expand, and elevate your firm, you bring in a marketing co-counsel. In this podcast, I bring in marketing experts who each answer one big question to help your firm achieve more. Here's today's guest.
Hi, everybody. My name's Simon Kingsnorth. I am a marketing author and CEO of a marketing agency over here in the UK, working with businesses all over the world, including some law firms. And I'm hoping today, Karen and I are going to have some really good conversations around AI and all kinds of exciting things happening in the space, and see if we can give you some useful advice to take away.
Simon, thank you so much for being here. I feel like this is the hot topic. Everybody is putting in their 2 cents, and, you know, everyone is looking for an angle on this topic too. Like, okay, I saw everybody else talking about ChatGPT. I saw everybody talking about this. How can I say something salacious that will get me some clicks and, you know, something that other people aren't talking about? So it seems like it just keeps getting elevated. Like, is AI taking over the world? And, you know, we are soon going to be, you know, slaves to our robot overlords. So actually, I kind of got ahead of myself. Let me first introduce the topic and thank you for being here. But today we're going to really dig into this and answer some of those questions and, you know, talk about the things that people are freaking out about and whether there's some, you know, truth behind some things or not. And so we're going to also talk about the big question we're going to ask is how to add AI to your marketing strategy. So let's, you know, we'll talk about the big questions, but then we can talk about where it could be useful and where you can, you know, kind of take some of these tools and use them in your marketing strategy. So that's what we're going to talk about today. That's the big question. So let's first talk about what's some of the big topics everybody's saying. Well, why is everybody talking about this right now?
Look, it's got really heated, I suppose, over the last few months, especially. Yeah. So, yeah, AI's been around for a while now, actually, and you know, call it machine learning. It's been around for years. I mean, Jasper is one of the platforms that's been around for quite a long time, being quite heavily used by millions of businesses now. But to me, the reason it's turned into a real buzz in 2023 is largely because of ChatGPT, really. Yeah, why is it the name everyone's hearing?
Yeah, exactly, and why is it that's the one that everybody finally suddenly just started going bonkers about when there has been all of this other stuff for years and years? Like it's bizarre to me.
Yeah, I think ChatGPT is doing a few things. So firstly, it's pushing the boundaries a little bit. So there are lots and lots of AI platforms out there that you can use for various different purposes, and we can talk a little bit about that later on. But I think the flexibility of ChatGPT, the ease of use, the friendliness of it, the way you can just pretty much get anything out of it, and the way they've promoted it very heavily, and they've gone out there and made it take doctor's exams, PhD exams, and things like that. It's a really strong statement.
Yeah, they've taken like legal bar exams and things like that too.
Yeah, exactly. It's phenomenal. So they've done some fantastic sort of almost guerrilla marketing with the way they're promoting it, which is great. But that on top of the fact it's sort of combined with it, it is the fastest growing digital platform ever, right? I mean, TikTok was enormously fast, but it's way faster than TikTok. It's only existed for 3 months, ChatGPT. So I think it has 100 million users, somewhere around there now. So we all dream of these sort of numbers when we're trying to grow our own businesses, right? But
exactly. We all go to bed at night dreaming of those numbers. that's the life of a marketer.
But it's phenomenal, and it is flexible. And I mean, you know what? Before I came on today, just maybe 20 minutes or so ago, I went over to ChatGPT, which I've used many times myself, and I said, "Hey, do you know how can I promote my law firm?" Just to see what it would come back with, right? Yeah. And it's given me, I very quickly, I won't read the whole thing out, but it's given me a little essay on what I should be doing. I should be building a professional website, optimizing it for the search engines, using social media, attending legal conferences and events, offering free consultations, creating informative content, and getting listed in legal directories like Arvo and Justia.
Oh my gosh, that is pretty good. Amazing. I have been doing this for, I want to say 15 years now. And that is like singing to the choir for me, because first of all, what I want to say, I want to just, it's amazing that a robot did that to begin with. But what I love about it is that coming from a robot, it's a really well-rounded marketing strategy.
Yeah.
It's not just online. It talks about going to conferences. It talks about the actual in-person, like traditional marketing activities that I am constantly reinforcing and saying, listen, you can't just do pay-per-click as your entire marketing strategy. That's not going to work. And then we have to explain why and blah, 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 blah. And then, bam, ChatGPT just like got the whole thing right there. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and it's got a little sentence or two about each one of those points. But of course, that's just a starting place.
Right.
You can then go back and say, okay, great. So you tell me I should list in legal directories. What are the best legal directories to be listed in? And it'll give you the answer to that. So there's a lot that could be done on. ChatGPT is, of course, just one. There are others, but you can just build and build and build on that. You can build entire marketing strategies and plans from this one platform really, really quickly. That, by the way, took less than a minute for it to generate that plan. So
that's amazing.
So super fast. So you can see why people are just thinking, wow, where have you been all my life, right?
Exactly. But at the same time, like I will say, that's the plan in a minute, but executing that plan, you still need the people to do that. So the next question I'm going to ask is the one that I see over and over, all over social media. Is ChatGPT going to replace me? Is this, the end of humans, basically? Do we all just become slaves to our robots? So tell me why. I mean, I assume the answer is no. And so tell me why the answer is no. Or maybe I'm wrong.
If I'm being totally honest, the answer is it depends.
Yeah.
Right? So it really depends what you're doing. So, but this has been the way for hundreds of years, right? I mean, the Industrial Revolution, it was, oh my God, we're not going to have any jobs anymore. These machines are going to do it for us. Do you know what? We've all still got jobs. We've just got different jobs, right?
Exactly.
So, AI still needs people to develop it and program it. It still needs people to feed the content and the expertise in, and it still needs the interpretation out the other side. At the moment, by no means is AI sophisticated enough, in my mind, to do a full wholesale replacement of most roles. Certainly, the vast majority of roles.
Yeah,
I think we're a number of years, not 10 years, but probably more like 3-4 years, maybe less if this really does continue at the pace it has been the last few months, towards certainly manual tasks being replaced. But you mentioned paid search earlier. Google Ads is a great example, because obviously it's been using machine learning for quite a long time.
Sure.
And in reality, if you go into Google Ads now and you trust Google to optimize it for you, it can look at your website and write the ads and decide what pages to send people to and decide what keywords to focus those ads on, and it will do a reasonable job in my mind with that. I wouldn't rely on it entirely,
right?
But there are certain distances that can get you without a lot of work, which would have been hugely manual 5 years ago. However, and expensive, But 5 years ago, I wouldn't. It still existed, but I wouldn't have trusted it at all.
Right.
And in fact, my recommendation to every client I've ever had has been, do not do that, right? That is a bad idea, to tell Google to optimize it, manually optimize it, test it, scientifically what's happening, what's not happening. It's absolutely, you should be trusting in an expert to run those ads for you. Absolutely should. But we are getting to a place where you can try out a little bit of that. You can let Google go with it and see what you learn and come back from it. So there is a space where some roles don't need as much work, but that's really in the button pressing and the manual exercises. It gives all it does is it frees you up to have more time to think strategically and to create journeys and be more sophisticated about your marketing. So in no way does it replace those. And if you flip over to another role, probably the one that most people are focusing on when they think about AI, which is copywriting. Right. This is the one that people are going, oh, brilliant! It takes hours to write copy and research it, and I've got to pay all this money, and it's so difficult, and this is even going to work, and and let's just stick it in an AI piece and see what comes out. Well, that is absolutely not ready yet. So. Yes, you can go into a piece of AI and you can say, like a Jasper, for example, you can say, write a 1,500-word blog about a subject, and you don't even have to come up with a subject. You can say, what subject should I write about for a law firm in Minnesota, right? And boom, you've got the subjects, and you go, okay, tell me how to structure that blog. Oh, okay, now write it for me. So you can really go down and get it to do everything for you. The problem is the quality of that at the moment is not quite there.
Yeah.
Most of that sort of content is very clearly readable as a bit of AI. It doesn't flow in a really human way. A lot of the research and the references won't be there.
Right.
And also, taking a step beyond that again, it will more than likely get picked up as being written by AI when it comes to the search engines. And just as a bit of a game to build on that point, I took that piece that I just wrote on how to write a law firm marketing strategy, and I put it into an AI content detector that I use, which said it's picked up that it's 91% fake.
Oh my gosh.
So
what's the negative part of that? I mean, what happens when Google recognizes that this was developed and created by AI?
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, it's a big answer to that question, but I'll try and keep it as short as I can. So there's a number of things. So there's a number of things on that. One is that Google absolutely does not like duplicate content.
Yes.
So anything where a piece of content that's substantial has clearly been taken from somewhere else, Google's going to look at that and say, well, that's not your content. We're not ranking that. Doesn't count.
Yeah.
On top of that, you have effectively plagiarism within there as well. If it is, the AI tool is taking significant pieces of content from elsewhere, you have the potential for plagiarism, which is obviously a real risk within any organization. Anyone producing content ideally should be putting it through a plagiarism checker, whether it's AI or not anyway, just because your copywriter might be plagiarizing. I hope they're not, but they might be.
Well, and as a little asterisk subnote to that, we as our copywriters will prove that they're not plagiarizing anything, and they'll send over a link to the checker that double checks and makes sure and verifies that this is original content. And your copywriter, if you're at all worried about it, there's ways to check that, and you should.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, have a look online for plagiarism checkers and AI checkers. Have a look at it. I mean, we have a client who's down in Florida, and we're running some SEO work for him. And the first thing we did when auditing his site was we picked up a bunch of AI generated content, which he had no idea was on there. So he didn't know his copywriters were doing that. So that's that can happen. So be careful with that. I think at the moment it's very clear what is AI generated and therefore not high value content. Google is looking for you to be an authority in your space, to be an expert, to be trusted. If you're just pulling the stuff from elsewhere and it's just generic, ordinary content that's been scraped out of other websites, Google can see that. It's pretty sophisticated. You're not going to rank on that content at all. So it's a waste of time. It's not to say you can't use that to plan and get you a certain distance, or even write it for you and then edit it yourself to add a lot more value to it and improve the links, make it more human. Absolutely, that's great. So it can still save you time.
Right. But
I personally wouldn't recommend relying on AI content and just generating it and stick it on your website. Chances are it may take you nowhere. It may take you backwards. That would be the downside.
You mentioned the word sophisticated a couple times, and I feel like I want to keep coming back to that, because I feel like when you also compare it to the Industrial Revolution and even the Internet Revolution, and everybody always has these fears, and I don't really think AI is necessarily at that level. Maybe it is, like, depending on how this all kind of plays out in various industries. But once again, we have this, new thing, and people worry, and what they're worried about are jobs and positions that aren't really ideal, and they don't maximize the level of sophistication that most human brains can handle. So this gives you the freedom and the ability to really use your expertise and spend the time on the things that are, the highest and best use of your time.
Yeah, look, I think that's a great point. It's these things are here to augment our lives, not to replace us in any way. And I think,
as far as we know so far,
as far as we know so far, right? I mean, who knows what's coming down the line, right? We've got the metaverse and all sorts of things, but that's probably not for today. But
there could be some alien planet that has bigger plans, and they're all bringing in ChatGPT, and there's a whole plan behind all of that. But as far as we know so far, we're going to be
let's not get started on aliens and balloons right now, right?
yeah, that's a whole other thing. We don't have that much time.
But yeah, but I think you're right. I mean, they are here to augment us and save us time, as is the internet, as our smartphones, as our social media. Although perhaps that sucks more of our time than actually helps us with anything. That's again a different conversation. But I think in terms of sort of replacing tasks that really we don't want to be doing as humans, and as things go forward, we shouldn't need to do. I think they're a fantastic tool for that.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm saying to everybody at the moment, and I'm speaking a lot about AI at a lot of different events right now, is just go and embrace it, right? Just go out there and try it, right? I mean, a lot of these tools have some of them are completely free, and some of them, most of them, if not all of them, have free trials.
Yeah.
So if you want to go out and try ChatGPT and Jasper and various others, just go and give it a go. Go and play around with it. And if you decide not to pull it into your business, that's fine. Right. But I think it's important right now to just understand what the capabilities are, because I guarantee you, all of your competitors are, right? Everyone else is doing this right now. Yeah. So if you don't, there's a risk you get left behind.
Exactly. And every conference, everywhere you go, this is the conversation. So, you don't want to be the guy standing there thinking, I've kind of heard what they're talking about, but I don't really know. So I'm just going to sit here and sort of twiddle my thumbs. I have no idea. It sounds a little scary, and so I'm not really, I don't know. Like, you don't want to be that guy. So that leads right into my next question, which is, what are some of the best chatbots, and where should people start and kind of check things out and kind of get their feet wet and have some understanding of what's going on and where they might get the best stuff out of? Yeah,
great. I mean, there are a lot of uses for AI. So if I just talk about a few of those to kick off. So we've talked about ChatGPT and we've talked about Jasper, both great tools to just go and say, hey, look, write this plan for me, or give me a list of SEO keywords for this subject, or how do I write this, or write me a blog, all those things. Yeah. Great, really good for that tool, and for much, much more. But there are some very specific AI tools in specific fields as well, which may well be worth people checking out. So for example, there's one called Murf, M-U-R-F, which is a fantastic tool of turning text into voice or video.
Awesome!
So because that is something that's tough, right? So things can be really time consuming, creating audio files or video files. So that's a tough thing to do. Writing a blog can be a bit time consuming, but if you've got to go out and film it and edit it and everything else, that's tough. And you might need an actor or something as well. It gets expensive and time consuming. But with Murf, what you can do is you can go in there, you can upload your own videos and images, or you can use stock stuff.
Nice.
But you can also pick music as well, and then you can choose a voice and even a face, and you can say, hey, look, go on, I'm just going to copy and paste my blog into there, and boom, off it goes. It's now a video, right?
That's amazing.
That's it. So suddenly the opportunity to build up a big YouTube channel without thousands and thousands of hours of effort becomes
my gosh. That is
incredible,
so
right?
Cool. And just as a sub-note to that, or question, so YouTube obviously is kind of getting on the same bandwidth with TikTok and Instagram, and so they have their shorts now, which are vertical formatted and the short little clips, and it's basically their ripoff of TikTok, which is, Reels on Instagram is the ripoff of TikTok. Like, the whole world is like, okay, let's all just be like TikTok. So it sounds like, and I'm guessing with Murf you can format it with the vertical formatting, and
you can, yeah.
So then you can throw those on all three. You could do the short form videos on TikTok, Instagram Reels, and then YouTube Shorts, and that sounds amazing. I love that.
And by the way, vice versa as well. You can take a video and turn it into text with AI as well, right? So
awesome.
Just pick it all up. So if you're the kind of person who's like is recording sort of 5 or 10 reels a week, because that you find that easy to just do when you've got a little couple of minutes spare.
Yeah.
Record those reels, get them, as you say, out across. Get a reel across Instagram, get a short across YouTube, put it on TikTok, but then take that and turn it into a short message. That can then be a social media post as well.
I love that.
Right?
So wherever your hurdles are, like whatever is easy, and then you have the hurdle of getting to the next thing. So if it's going from text to video or vice versa, this now will push you through that problem.
Yeah, exactly. And you could write a really long, you may have a dissertation or something that you've written, really lengthy piece with a case study that's a few thousand words long.
Yeah.
And maybe that would take 20 minutes to read out. great, that's a podcast maybe, right?
There you go.
You turn that
That's
text into
amazing.
audio. So if you're doing one of those a month, you've got a free podcast right there. So there's a whole load of ways to move into an area that before was really time consuming or just isn't your bag. You just don't want to be doing it, right? So great, get the AI to do it for you. So it opens up new avenues for you. So that's a great one.
Yeah.
I think another one worth mentioning is one I probably should have used before we did this recording, which is called Poised.
Ooh, what is
that? So it effectively analyzes your public speaking. So
nice.
you work with Poised and you can speak into the camera. And this may be great depending on what you're doing within your law firm. If you are speaking a lot and trying to convince people of a certain story in a courtroom, perhaps.
If you're a trial lawyer. Yeah, exactly.
If you're a trial lawyer, exactly. Then in that situation, actually presenting to this and having it then give you notes back afterwards saying, hey, you moved too much.
And how harsh is it? Like, stop saying like
yeah. So it's really powerful actually.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend if you're in that space where or even if you're just you obviously many lawyers that I know regularly speak on the circuit.
Yeah.
You'll go around and speak on stage and have opinions and get interviewed. It's a great way. I mean, you may well be established in your field, but if you're just getting into that, really helpful way to get yourself into the stride with public speaking as well. So yeah, that's great. And that's a really good way.
How do you spell that one? Poised.
Poised, Poised, yeah.
Oh, the regular way. Usually
the regular way,
they take out a vowel or they add an extra D or something,
PYZDQ,
yeah, right,
I don't know.
Exactly. But we say Z.
Yeah. Sorry, you're absolutely right. Oh, look at me. Yeah.
I was in New Zealand and at one point, and I said something about how, we don't say Z, we say Z, and they're like, every time? Every time. No, just on Tuesdays we'll use Z.
I should be used to it. My books all have to be written in American English, so that they're all. I'm pretty used to this stuff. I should be better at that. Sorry, but yeah, I mean, you've got other tools for like image creation, so you can just create images out of nothing, so you don't have to go and buy stock photography.
What's
got
that
ones
one?
that will. There's a few of those. There's Stock AI is probably a good one. That's a good one, easy to remember.
Nice.
You've got things that will just do your organization for you, like Notion. Notion's a really great.
Oh yeah, that's been around for a while.
It has.
I have friends who are obsessed with Notion.
Right, yeah, absolutely. It's hugely popular. I don't use it myself, but I have many clients who do, and I get pulled into that from time to time. So, yeah.
It reminds me of the early days of Evernote. Do you remember that? When everyone was obsessed with Evernote?
Yeah.
But it was really complicated because there was like sort of slash commands and folder structures, and people had their whole life around Evernote, and then it kind of went away. I wasn't either.
I wasn't a fan. I didn't. Yeah. I when everyone was into it, I did go and use it for a short time, but I couldn't. It just something didn't sit right with me on that one, I suppose. So
I agree completely, and I was just like, what? Why am I spending 20 minutes to just put this thing in a folder somewhere? Like it just seems like way too much.
That's probably what killed it. Yeah. And the one thing I would say on copywriting is if you are going to write your own copy, but you're not sure if you've written that really well for SEO, there is a tool called Surfer SEO, which is as you'd expect it, which you can take that blog, put it into Surfer SEO, it'll rate it based on the keywords you're trying to optimize for, and it'll give you specific advice.
It's so good.
It's really powerful. So that's really great.
And once again, we write the content, but then we put it into Surfer and for the ranking and everything. So
that's
just to reiterate, like we're not having the robot write the SEO content because it's not.
Yeah.
It just and
that's right. It's written as a human, and you write a really good, compelling, well-researched piece. Pop into Surfer, and Surfer will say, "Okay, it's great, but actually, you need this keyword more. You need a few more titles. You should put an image over here." So it's just helping you structure it better for SEO, which is it's a really helpful tool.
Yeah,
really, really helpful.
Like a trainer.
But there's thousands.
You need to work on this muscle over here.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. So there's thousands more. And I guess if you've got a challenge within your business that is time consuming or difficult, or you haven't got the skill set for within the organization, but you don't want to go out and hire someone because that's expensive and risky, and then have a look. Just have a poke around the internet, see if you can find an AI tool that's doing that, because the way things are going at the moment, there probably is one.
Yeah, and I think the key there is to recognize that they're all kind of fresh and new, and so you're probably gonna have to take that tool and it's going to save you a bunch of time, but it's not, you don't want to think about it as saving 100% of the time, so that you still reserve like 10-15% of your time to fix it, like to read it and make it human and revise it in an appropriate way, so that
and overrule it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like some of the advertising, say Google ads and things like that. Don't just go, okay, look, I can press this button and it's all done, and hooray, I can leave that for a month, and then you get to the end of the month and realize you spent twice your budget, or it's just not been effective at all. It won't spend twice your budget. Don't panic. But it's perhaps just not been effective. It's important to just check it and as I say, challenge it and optimize it, whether it is copy or optimization of performance marketing, whatever it might be.
So, you mentioned that some of these are free. Is there a variety of are the ones that you mentioned all free, or some of them are have a cost behind them, or
most of them, most of them have a sort of freemium model where they give you a free trial, and it'll be a few days or a certain amount of usage, and you're not going to be able to keep it for free for most of the time with most of these platforms. I think it takes a fair bit of work to build these. So I think if they were free forever, it just wouldn't commercially really work for most of them.
Yeah, I think didn't ChatGPT just come out with their pricing structure too, and all of a sudden everybody's like, "What?" It's like,
exactly.
What did you think we were doing here?
Yeah. They're not stupid.
We need to make some money.
Yeah, that's right. So exactly that. They've come out and said, okay, this is what our pricing is going forwards. And to be fair, there's been a bit of noise about that. I don't think there's been an uproar about it. To be honest, I think everyone is like, yeah, okay, fair enough. About time we started paying for this. Okay,
exactly.
So that's I think that's been generally well accepted. But most of them are paid after a trial. So, like I say, worth giving them a trial first.
Sure.
There are a few things that are free, but like the AI content detector I use, for example, is free because it just makes a lot of sense. Murph, you can create a video for free, but then you can't export and keep the video unless you pay for it. So
it's thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, keep your video and sell it to somebody else.
But definitely worth doing, and I think that's the key. Really, is that I think it's worth going and trying, because you don't have to go and spend any money before you've tested it out.
Yeah,
and that model generally, for me, works really well, and you can decide whether it's powerful and time-saving enough for your organization, depending on what challenges you've got.
And I find the ones that stay free for too long, either they just get really annoying with ads or something, or their quality goes down. So at some point, I find I would rather pay some minimal amount to keep the quality of the app and keep it kind of up and running, and have some responsibility to the people who are paying. Whereas if it's free, then it's like, okay, if it's not working or it's broken or whatever, like we don't care because it's free.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And an AI tool that is, many of the free platforms out there, whether they're games or whatever they are, they're often obviously paid for by advertising.
Yeah.
And when you're building a tool that is ultimately about time saving and efficiency, the last thing you want is to have adverts popping up and blocking your journey all the time. So it wouldn't really work. And I think there's a lot of pushback. You're in California, right? So there's a lot of pushback in Silicon Valley against sort of throwing money at companies now like they used to 10-15 years ago.
Yeah.
Because a lot of fingers have been burnt over the last 5 years, I think. And so I think a lot of VCs are looking for organizations that are going to go in and be profitable and have a sensible business model, rather than just let's grow and hope we can make some money later.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like a professional tool when you're using it for professional type things, and then all of a sudden like this ad pops up. It's like, okay, what is it? Okay, let me give you $5 so that you can make these ads go away.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's one a different way that people can use all of these different pieces within their marketing mix? So they have their overall marketing strategy. They've got the ChatGPTs. What's a way that they can kind of integrate all of these different pieces as part of their overall strategy?
So I think that, as I say, the most common one, I think at the moment, is around the chats. So around the ability to create content.
Yeah.
Now, as I say, I wouldn't go and create that blog for SEO, but it's a good starting point.
Yeah.
So So, for example, if you can go and if you can use these chatbots and get them to give you a list of the most popular keywords for whatever it is your specific sector is, or whatever sort of audience you're trying to go after, then from that set of keywords, you can then go and say, okay, so let's create some blog topics around that. Yeah. Then from those blog topics, you can say, okay, give me a structure for each one of those blogs. Yeah. And from that, you've got your 25 blogs, however many you publish a week or a month. That will keep you going for quite a long time. You then need to go and write those blogs yourself, but you're writing it within a structure that you know is built on data and fact. Once you've written them, you can then go and put them into Surfer SEO and say, okay, great, now I know this is a well-written piece that's well optimized, and it was built on the initial keywords at the beginning. So that's about as strong as you can get.
Yeah.
Publish that, then turn that blog, if you want to go this far, into an audio file, which is a podcast, into a video, which pushes your YouTube and your Reels, and then create that a shortened version of those blogs and use that for your social media. So you ultimately, basically, from using maybe 3 or 4 AI tools, which is not a big investment, to be honest with you, financially, you've gone from nothing to 3 months worth of blog content, which is going out across multiple channels, which has probably taken you a couple of hours to put together rather than a couple of months. So that for me is the most powerful thing to do with it right now.
Seriously, and just what you've described in the past would have taken weeks and weeks and hours of a person sitting down and doing so much research that these AIs are going out and just bam, they just have it within minutes, and they're providing like, okay, here's the keywords, here's where you're going to get some traction, but then it's really important for you to go back and say, okay, of these keywords, like this one makes no sense. This doesn't apply to the way we're running our firm. And it's important for you to go through, like we said a few times, and edit that and find what makes the most sense and make it more human. But that is like such a perfect and complete strategy where it like really is supplemented by these AI in a way that just saves you the time and effort, but also really supports it. Like it really is going to go out and get this research and data to make sure that all this effort is making sense and going to give you those results.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, before, just to do the keyword research, you might have had to go to Google Keyword Planner and SEMrush and your various other SEO tools, all of which you're going to have to pay for and set up. And suddenly you don't have to do any of that anymore. And then the structuring of the blog, well, who knows? I mean, what's the best way to do that? Well, that's done for you, so that's fine. And you're sense checking it at the end with Surfer SEO anyway, so fantastic. But you're absolutely right. I mean, even when we get to the end of that process, and I was saying, create a shortened version of that blog to use as a social post. Yeah, okay, the AI can do that, but you're probably going to want to think, what accounts do I want to tag in that?
Yes.
Who are the big players, or who are people we have a relationship with? So as we tag and we get a bit more traction with that social post than we had before.
Yeah.
Hashtags, debatably, perhaps you might want to ask what the right hashtags to use are, but they're not quite so relevant on most platforms. Still on TikTok, but not quite so relevant elsewhere. But so you've got to, with every stage, you've got to layer your actual human brain over the top of it and just say, is this right, or can I make this better? And you'll always be able to make it better. But as I say, 3-4 years time, maybe not.
Yeah, ChatGPT is telling me to do a dance routine. I'm thinking I'm not going to do that part. There's certain things where like the hashtags are going to pop up or whatever those keywords are, and you're going to say, okay, that is not for me. And you should be saying that, because what drives me the most nuts, and we see this probably most likely on social media, is where everybody's like, okay, everybody's doing this one dance routine, I guess I have to. And you can see on their face, it's like kind of killing part of their entire soul. But it's like, why are you doing that? Like, it has nothing to do with what you're talking about. Like, it makes no sense. And it's painful to watch. So, don't do those things.
Be authentic, right? Be authentic is something I've been saying for a very, very long time, right? Yeah. ChatGPT doesn't know you, your brand, your personality, however your business functions. It doesn't know the history of your company, doesn't know your place in the market. And, if you're a law firm asking ChatGPT, what blog should I write for law firms, that's so generic that probably 10 other law firms are asking the same thing, and you're going to end up writing the same content. So you've got to find your own voice and your own angle within that. And that's something that at the moment it can't do as well for you, and I know I can argue that point with various AI experts, but it's not going to do that as well as you possibly can yourself. as we stand today, because there'd be an enormous amount of data internally within your organization, externally, in relation to you, in relation to the history of the industry, and all sorts of things that that especially if you're a trial lawyer, for example, and you've got a profile from certain cases you've held in the past or something, that's all going to come into play, which it simply can't do. So I think that human element, I think we've probably preached that point too much, but that's really important.
No, I think it's okay, because I think a lot of people are just going into some of these chatbots and just copying and pasting, and they don't realize that there's some risk in that. There's potential for plagiarism. There's potential that it's pulling from different places, but on top of it, there's risk of just your overall brand and reputation. Like, if it doesn't sound like you, if it sounds like all of a sudden, what is this person saying? They used to sound a certain way, and now they sound really weird, and it doesn't sound authentic, like you were saying. You're really risking just kind of throwing all the work that you've put into for however many years, like, into the toilet. So
and really that matters a lot in the legal industry. I mean, we have some legal firms in my agency as clients, and it matters enormously who you are and your name. I mean, your name is literally above the door most of the time, right? So if suddenly the voice that you've got, the message you're putting across, completely changes and becomes sort of this
Mickey
generic
Mouse.
Exactly, it's like, oh, who's this, right? You're seen as an expert and an authority, and suddenly you're just talking like mediocre stuff anyone could have said, right? That's not where you want to be at all. So,
no, like you said earlier, it has the likelihood to move you backwards when you're trying to move forwards, and so then not only are you wasting all this money, but you're damaging all the work that you've done in the past. So I feel like we've talked about the human element quite a bit. So let's move on to the book review. It is time to get your recommendation for what book you think everybody in the audience should be listening. So reading. I'm sorry, not listening. so Simon, what's your book recommendation?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to recommend my own books, although
we will link to those though as well.
But there's a great book about sustainable marketing out there, which is literally called Sustainable Marketing. So it's fairly easy to remember, which is by Michelle Carville. Now, Michelle does some great work around sustainability. It's a topic that's very close to my heart, certainly. I think at the moment within business, there's a lot of sort of greenwashing and talking about sustainability and climate, and not really living those values, and not really thinking about what it really means, right? I mean, sustainability is not about buy my product and I'll plant a tree, although that doesn't hurt, but sure. But it's if you think about your whole, this may not be quite so relevant in the law firm space, but if you think about your logistics chain and what impact you're having in terms of where your office is and how you're getting people to commute into the office. But within marketing specifically, what activity are you doing? And I had a great conversation with someone around sustainable web design the other day, who was saying, when people think about their websites, they think about the speed of their website and how important that is, and that's important as an SEO factor. It's important from a user experience. Those are the two things we always think about. But actually, from a sustainability perspective, it's really important as well. If every website in the world could load 20% faster, then the demand on a computer to load that website is lower, and the energy use is lower. And it's a really fascinating area.
That is not something I've ever heard anyone talk about. I feel like that is so fascinating to think about, just the energy use and the demand on servers, and not just the performance in terms of SEO and Google and all of that stuff that everybody's always talking about, but that there is that sustainability element in there. That's fascinating. I love that.
Yeah, and obviously you've got recycled products in terms of what you're doing and how you're positioning your messaging, and whether you really need to be doing some things. Can you do them digitally, and is that better than a paper version? There's still a lot to be said, of course, for face-to-face, especially within this industry and within certain other areas like private banking and investments. There's specific industries where face-to-face works really well, but how can you do that face-to-face marketing really sustainably? It tackles a lot. The book tackles a lot of issues, and I think sustainability within business generally is something that I think is actually really, really important. Whether you're really into climate change or you dismiss it or whatever your view is, it doesn't do any harm to be more sustainable, right? So that's generally my view.
Yeah,
it's a great book. So yeah, Sustainable Marketing by Michelle Curville. Definitely.
That's awesome. We will link to that in on the show page and in the show notes, and it's in our library and all of that good stuff. I find that really fascinating, especially in terms of, law firms have generally been kind of slow to putting their entire firms in the cloud, and they've just been traditionally so paper-based, and not only does it put the firm at risk security-wise, because it's so much less secure to have files full of paper and than to put it in the cloud, but sustainability-wise, it's just not the way to go. It's just not the best for anybody, the planet or anybody in general.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of I've worked with a lot of very, very large companies in various countries around the world over the years, and there's also a lot of issues with record keeping and privacy and housing data, and it becomes not even if you park sustainability for a minute, it just becomes a real headache managing that stuff, to be honest with you. So
exactly.
I think that's it's a good one to consider. Yeah,
and then to add the sustainability element on top of it, it's just like it's all positive to move towards that direction, as opposed to kind of holding on to the past of what just kind of feels comfortable and like these piles of paperwork.
I get it. I completely get why law firms have and why banks have. Until you're confident that the technology is right, and obviously there have been data leaks. I mean, I think just 10 cases. I was talking to someone the other day. They're just from 10 cases alone in the last 10 years, 7.5 billion records have been leaked. Right, that's the entire world's population leaked in 10 hacks alone. So I can understand that if it's out there somewhere, it can get leaked. If it's locked in the back office of my office, it can't get leaked, right? So so I get that, but I think we're in a much more secure place, much more safer place, and it's just the smart thing to do now. So
absolutely. Okay, so Simon, what is one thing that that works?
Do you know what I thought about this earlier, and I think we've touched on it so many times actually during this session now. But it's about being human, right? We've touched on being authentic, and we've touched on adding the human angle to AI. But the actual point for me in marketing is always about being human. People don't connect with companies. They don't really connect with brands. They connect with people. And in marketing, I've been involved in so many studies of imagery and video and what resonates with people and what doesn't. And it's always the picture of the person who's smiling back at you that resonates over the picture of a really nice looking product. It just is it's because we as humans, we love a community, we love a tribe, we connect with each other, we look into each other's eyes, and we have a connection. And actually expressing yourself as a person, trying not to be too corporate, too formal, especially as we move forward, and there are more millennials and more Gen Zs making decisions, becoming decision makers. Those guys are increasingly going to be focused on the human connection. We look to humans for reviews. We look to humans on social media for their opinions, and especially with Gen Zs, it's something around 70% of Gen Zs are buying on social media. Buying products only after they've decided that they trust them through looking at social media or through an influencer. So, of course, the growth of the influence is all because of humans as well.
Exactly.
So
and that's what I was just going to add is to bring it back to what you said a couple times when we talked about it being, there's a level of sophistication that we continue to increase our level of sophistication from the Industrial Revolution into this whole idea of these AI and everything. And we also have increased our level of sophistication in discerning how human a thing is. So we now can look at stock photos and say, okay, that's not that company. That's just some random stock photo. And that reduces the amount of trust that people have when they can look at it and say, okay, that's a stock photo. That's not an authentic photo of the people that are actually in that company. And stock photos have their place, but they have their place when you are supporting them with authentic imagery as well. So you kind of balance it out. So to not only continue to be human, but really authentically present all of your visuals in a way that people can say right away, oh yeah, that's that person. It's not a stock photo. It wasn't written by an AI. It wasn't, it's not just this person kind of going out and having this done in an automated electronic way. We can sense that very easily. So
absolutely. And people on social media engage with content when it feels more human, more real as well.
Exactly.
I've been saying for years, I don't believe we live in the digital age. I believe we live in the human age, right? I mean, it is not, humans have never been more connected than they are now, right? I mean, there are billions of people in the planet that can all talk to each other in real time now, which has obviously never happened. So it's not really about embracing technology. It's about embracing humanity and using the technology to augment that, if you like.
Oh my gosh, I think that is the perfect ending of all of that. It brings it all together. That all of this technology is just a tool to support our humanity and our connection and our ability to make these amazing human connections. And if you're missing that point, that's where you're not going to do it well. And that's where it's not going to turn out well, is if you're just, sinking into the technology side of it only and not recognizing that there's, recognizing your humanity for it. So
yeah, that's right. 100%. That's awesome. My view.
I think that is the perfect place to stop. So Simon Kingsnorth, thank you so much for being here. You are the CEO of SK, which is a global marketing agency. And we will link to all of your social media, all of your content. You've got so much good content on your blog about all of this stuff, chatbots and, all of this good marketing stuff, as well as the book, Sustainable Marketing, that you recommended. So we'll have all of that stuff on our show notes and our show page. But thank you so much. I feel like that was an amazing conversation. Yeah,
thanks, Karen. I really enjoyed that. That was great. It's always nice to chat.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the CouncilCast podcast. Be sure to visit our website at council-cast.com for the resources mentioned on the episode and to give us your feedback. If you enjoyed this episode, I would appreciate if you could rate and review the podcast on Apple and subscribe to your favorite podcast platform. See you on the next one.